Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. You better grab your coffee or your cold one, whatever you're going to have, because we're going to start something new here. We're going to do a rambling rampage. And what that means is that I'm going to sit here and I'm going to have several subjects. I'm going to try to keep them down to a 15-minute episode, but I'm going to do one every day for the next 3 or 4 days. And we're going to talk about anything out there that you want to talk about or that I want to talk about. I have my notepad and I have multiple pages, page 3. Anyway, I have notes of some of the things I want to talk about. Most of it is just simple stuff. So let's get started and you'll kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. I'm going to try to keep them to about 15 minutes. So that's probably about 1 coffee cup's worth. So let's get started. First thing I want to talk about is my vise that I made, my OTB vise, where I used the hand screw clamp. In my shop here, I have this unusual bench here, and I have returns on it. So I'm just going to fasten this thing right here. I have easy access to the 2 handles right here. I can roll over to it if I'm on my chair. If I stand up, it's still a good height. And it's held by just this 1 C-clamp. If I need to, I can move it from here over to this area to work with this area. So it's going to be kind of nice. Normally I go to this vise right here from my workbench area, my Xylus. But now I find that I've been starting to go to this thing while I'm here. So this is a great addition for any workbench. Figure out a place to where you can put it and mount it and tie it down right on the middle of your workbench, however you want to do it. That is a dedicated spot that you can put things in and use it as a vise in that spot. So I'm going to probably do something like that with this, and I've been giving some thoughts to what I can do. So we're going to go a long way with this thing. What else we can do with it. And also, I've been thinking about how to use this on my drill press. So I think this little hand screw clamps, we can find a pretty good comeback for those things. I know that most of the time mine have been sitting up until I started working with them as vices. And I'm starting to see all sorts of things I can do with them. So stay tuned. We're not done with that thing. So anyway, that's a subject I wanted to talk about. And I knew it wasn't the whole episode. So anyway, let's move on. Let's take a look at my list here, my notepad. And, oh yeah, the gripper patterns. If you remember my last episode, I made this gripper here, which I have not used yet. And I explained to you how to set up your pattern here. And what I did basically is I put a mark every 1/4 inch. So I made 1/4 inch segments from one edge to the other. Now I made this, since I'm using 1/4 inch, I went to 3, was it 3 1/8? I did, what was it? Yeah, 3 1/8 inches, 12 1/4 inch sections, and this one was only about 1/8 inch. And so I always use the same edge, and I marked it out on here. This is my reference edge. So from this reference edge, I went this way with the markings so that I came out the same. And then I decided which ones to put as the cut zone area and which ones to put as in between for the leg of the gripper. And you can make that pattern anything you want. Now, I got to thinking about this, and I thought I wanted to mention to everybody that if you really are seriously about doing one of these and you want to design your own, you really can design your own pretty easily. For one thing, if you're using, I use almost totally my 7 1/4 inch blade in my table saw. And that's only a 1/16 inch kerf. And you can say what you want, but if you put one in your saw and use that for a while, I guarantee you're going to use that as your choice to go to for most of the things you do on a table saw. Unless you're doing some real heavy cutting, in which case then you can put your 10 inch back on there and go to town. But I really like the cut from the 7 1/4 inch because the kerf is so much smaller. It's only a 1/16 of an inch wide instead of 1/8 of an inch, which is the standard for a 10 inch table saw blade. So if you're going to use a 10 inch, and that's what you normally use, then I think I would probably increase this from a 1/4 inch increment. Is when you measure them out, it take a little more effort, but measure them out to 5/16 each or 3/8 of an inch each. And do the same principle though, where you have an even number of quadrants plus a little extra. And the extra can be anywhere from half of what these increments are up to a full one. So in other words, I went 1/4 inch all the way over, and then I added an 1/8 inch for the offset. But you can make that up to, I could have made that up to 1/4 inch. And I don't mind doing that, but it really made this leg so much bigger. I just didn't like it. So I cut it down and tried it this way, and I kind of like this pattern like this. It's not an exact science, because as you start using this, every time you set it down and you look at it, sometimes it's going to be close, whether it's on the leg part or on the cut part. And you're going to say, which way did I want it? And you might even look at both ways. So you're going to chip away on the edges of the leg. So sometimes these legs might get a little thinner than what you think they will by the time you've used it. Like here, if you look at this leg right here, this leg is quite a bit thinner than the other one. This leg right here. And if you look over here, this one is extra fat. It just came out because of my incrementation out here wasn't a full extra segment. So I know I'm rambling now, but that's what I was talking about, is that you want to make sure you proportionally size this up based on which blade you're actually normally using. But you should be able to use it on any of them. But if you widen these out to 5/16 of an inch increments instead, you might like that a little better than the 1/4 inch. So just make a cheap one, quick and easy. Try it for a little while, and then try expanding them. Make a new one. I mean, it doesn't take much to change this out to something else. So that's what I like about it. When I design it, it's also pretty easy and cheap to scratch the whole thing if I want. This one started off as brad nails. I tried brad nails one time. That's why it has all these rows of brad nails in it. When I turned it into the silicone one, I just made sure that the brad nails were lined up to the no cut zone of this thing. So there's brad nails that are all over this thing, and I've hit them a couple times. No big deal on brad nails. But the idea is that you can actually make this thing out of many different materials, and that's what I've done. So they're cheap. I don't have any money wrapped up in it, but yet at the same time, that's been my favorite one right here. I've been using this for the last 3 years, and this thing has been awesome. I really like the gripping power of it, and it's really durable for still giving me a lot of surface to grip with when I put it on any size piece, because of the way that it inherently is now laid out. So it's a simple idea to do this, and it just gives you a cheap, inexpensive push pad to keep your hand away from that saw blade. This does a great job of that. I'm never afraid that I'm going to hit that blade when I'm using this thing. So, but play with it, play with the sizes of it, and let me know what you end up with and what you think about it. You might have a better idea than I do for it. So one gentleman already mentioned something about it, and yeah, his idea worked, and I actually kind of like it better than my design. But it doesn't really matter, so just play with it. That's not an exact science, and if you think outside the box and you understand how the offset becomes over here, it takes those 12 segments, instead of being on the very edge, it actually shifts them over when you turn it around. So it's really easy to really make one of these things after you really start to understand why it does what it does and how you end up with the organized chaos when you cut through this thing, as opposed to the old ones where you just chewed that thing up so bad you finally just had to throw it away and make a new one. This allows you to keep one for a very long time. So anyway, the gripper, I really do swear by it on the table saw. So, and anyway, so now then, something else I kind of wanted to talk about is everybody keeps, one of the questions that comes up is about how much money are you making at that? And let me tell you right now, I think old Sneedlock Workshop over there, he put it best. He called it rocking chair money. And that's really all it is. I've been actually thinking about non-monetizing it completely. But I suspect that if I do that, then you never even get out there on the list. So there's a lot of people that might never find the channel, because I'm already not exposed all that much through YouTube when it comes up on recommend lists where people are just kind of looking for things. I think mine is usually probably pretty far down on the searches. So I think it's just hard for people even to find if they might like this type of video content. So because mine is unique, what I do is quite simple. I just get the camera out and I sit out here and I do the whole thing. I don't edit it. When I get done, sometimes I'll go through and look at it. If I like it, great. If I don't, I start over and do the same video again. So I really start with a set of talking points, but what you see is what you get. This is there's no cutting out there all the silly little things that I might blurt out or stumble over when I'm talking, like a lot of them do. So if I was talking to you in real life, in person, you wouldn't see much difference than you see here. So anyway, monetizing, I thought about turning it off, but I'm going to keep it on, I think, which means that you're going to have commercials. But I think I'm going to leave it on just so that there is a chance that people will find this channel that might end up liking it. And I might find some new friends then, because I'm not looking for viewers really as much as I'm looking for friends. So any of these subjects that we talk about, if you leave a comment, there's a good chance in tomorrow's episode I probably will do it again. So because like I said, I'm going to try to do this every morning for the next 3 days, maybe even 4 if I don't run out of material to talk about, even if I have to get out another notepad to do it. So stay tuned for the rambling. We're going to try this and see, because I like doing this stuff. Just ramble on what I'm thinking about. In my electrical stuff I do around the shop, I've just been getting more and more into the electrical part of building things. And I'm trying to figure out how to standardize my connectors that I'm going to use. For example, whenever hardware, you can't stock all the different size bolts and everything. So I just am being committed to imperial instead of metric. I went with one size and I tried to get everything I can in that size. And in particular, I'm talking about 1/4 inch, 20 thread. And that has about everything. Now I have some screws in different sizes, 3/8, 5/16, and that sort of thing. But I don't have a full array of those things. So I want to try to use that same strategy in my connectors that I've been using. I've been looking really hard at the XT series. They come in 30, 60, 90 mostly. And that looks like a pretty nice one that maybe I could use. But I also am looking seriously at the Anderson, the red and black one. And that would probably fit into the scheme of things. And that comes in the standard of 15, 30, and 60, I think. So most of the things I would use this stuff for is probably under 20 amps. I very rarely am I going to need something that would be over a 20 amp circuit. So, and very rarely will I even be that high. And probably even under 10 most of the time for the things I'll be doing. I don't know if you can hear that barking. I took the doggy door out because that little one is a monster. In fact, I'm going to change the subject because that's what we're going to talk about. But I'm still trying to figure out what what connectors to use. I should tell you this real quick. If you have any suggestions about what connectors are really well that you like, let me know. And I'm trying to find a brand so I can stay with one style connector, no matter how strong that circuit's going to be. So anyway, any useful help, advice would be appreciated for that. Because I don't even know what's out there in that. Anyway, back to Missy now. Oh my gosh. Missy is, if you've ever when you had kids, when my firstborn was a hellraiser, my secondborn was as quiet and as nice a little kid growing up as you ever could have. Always well behaved and good, always thought things through and very conscientious. And always was sensitive to other people, just total different opposites, the two. I'm not talking about the third. The third was really different, but those two personalities, that's what I've got. My first dog, Annie, she's mellow, but she's always been more of a very submissive, do what I want dog, and you only had to scold her once, about something, she wouldn't do it anymore. The second one is she is in her permanent terrible twos. She gets into everything. She pulls everything out, drags it around, either in the house or outside. And I had a stack of logs. She's got them all pulled out in a 10-foot radius of the small stack of logs I had. And I can't believe she even was able to move them. But she just gets into everything. And she doesn't listen very well. I've been having to use these a lot lately, and they do seem to be effective. I have one here, one in the house. But, boy, you talk about having a dog that's a real, as a kid would go, she's a little monster. So every now and then, instead of calling her Missy, both you know who, and I've been calling her, where's the little monster? So, and I think that she's probably started answering the little monster before we're done. So anyway, maybe I should call her Mad Cow. That'd probably be a good name for her, because she does look like a cow. Anyway, so much about that. I want to keep these under 20 minutes on these videos as I can, so we're not done. If you want to talk about something like this, make a comment, just leave it. I'll be back tomorrow morning, and we'll go over this again and go over maybe some of the stuff that you guys want to talk about. But I still have lots of things that we're going to talk about. A lot of Ryobi stuff that we want to talk about. And I also want to talk about incorporating solar. So stay tuned. If you like to do this sort of thing, you're welcome to hang out. Just make sure you do bring your coffee. That's what it's really all about. Just sit back and relax, and let's swap some ideas. Anyway, thanks for coming by. If you learned something here, you like this video, hit that like button. It lets me know I'm doing something right. If you don't like it, hit that dislike button. That's fine. I don't really care. That tells me things sometimes too, unless I only get one. Then that means that I'm getting that you never hear about. But anyway, if you hit that dislike, all I ask is leave a comment and let me know why. No big deal. It'll help make things even better. So, but don't be afraid to use those two buttons. And comments are always welcomed. So, most importantly though, please come back again, because I'm nowhere near done. Thanks, and we'll see you guys pretty soon.